Okay, cool. All right. So in this segment of the program, we'll dive in and talk about doing the exercise of what do you want and why do you want it.
Right.
That's always the first thing. And anybody that's done any of the SEEing program and even the 42 days knows that that's one of the things that you're constantly hammering us to ask ourselves and really drill down and actually get to the bottom of. So
Yeah.
we shouldn't expect that this is going to be any different, right?
No, it's actually more important, right? Because it's like, define your goals, right? The more clearly you can define your goals, the easier it is to reach them. I mean, I think, again, one of the reasons that people don't define their goals is, they don't want to be disappointed if they don't hit them. But the other thing too is that if you don't define your goals, then you don't have any references or, metrics for achieving something, right? And so you don't know when you hit those stages, those little victories, right? Or, defeats that you need to, kind of rethink through and apply them in a different way, right? And so, if you keep yourself all vague and fuzzy, you never really achieve anything, right? So, and it keeps you, there's the short term kind of plus for that, which is, if you don't have any goals, well, then you don't know when you're there, or you don't know, that you're not hitting it, right? Until it just becomes something that goes off, right? So it's goes off the radar at that point, because there's nothing to gauge it by. You don't know where you are. So, really giving yourself a defined goal, it takes a lot of courage,
And
right?
when
Because
we sit down to, yeah, and when we sit down to do this, would you say that like, we should kind of go easy on ourselves and say like, oh, like, well, my first goal is just to lucid dream once a week? Or should we be like, well, my ultimate goal is to be able to, have a shared lucid dream with you, or to be able to stay there as long as I want, or any of the things that we've outlined, because there's a lot of different goals or potential stages that one could
right.
shoot for. I mean,
Right. I mean, I would probably, in the beginning, I like to build on strength. So, I mean, there's two ways of doing it. If you're a person that, is really looking to be, your goal driven, right? It's like, as soon as you hit a goal, you're moving into the next goal, right? And then you're moving, so you're goal driven, then maybe you want to, kind of stage it out a little bit, sort of like the way that we did that, right? It's like, oh, if I could get to here, then that would be this. And if I can get to that first stage, it'll be this. And, you're going to have different whys. Of course, some will cross over, but you're going to have different whys for each of those stages if you want to progress and go that far, right? So, it's not just the what do you want, although that's very important, but why do you want those things? It's like, what drives you at this point? Do you have a specific territory of a place that you want to enhance besides just the fantastical nature of it to begin with, right? But let's say you have a broader underlying goal that you're thinking that lucid dreaming will actually help you achieve something here in waking reality in your life, some territory like relationship or whatever, so then you want to state those, you want to put those out there, because when things get rough, you're going to want to look at those. It's like, those are the things that I do every day, right? I look at them at night before I go to bed. I look at them in the morning when I get up,
you
as
do.
most people did. Oh, absolutely. Because I want to know where I am, right? I want to remind myself, like, this is where we're going. This is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm sacrificing. This is why I'm being disciplined. This is why I'm eating this and not that. And, all of those things, right? So I'm reminding myself constantly what's important. What is it? How important is it? Is it just a whim, or is it something that you really feel like, oh man, if I could do this, it would change my life? I mean, it will change your life, but maybe you have a more specific aim in changing your life in a specific territory. And that would be something I'd put down, because when you see that every day, it's gonna, course correct for you. If like, oh, I just, today is a day off, even though it's supposed to be a day of doing. So, I just don't feel like doing it. Well, it's sort of like, what would make you feel like doing it? What would be an adequate exchange for you to feel like doing it again? Well, bringing up and really understanding why it is that you're doing it in the first place, right? It's like you really want to keep reminding yourself what's the end game here, and for each stage, right? So, and that's really important. So, yeah, what you want is the way to achieve anything. You know, writing that down, really making it concrete, so you can't go. If it's just in your mind, well, then you can, yeah, your mind is really good. Your conscious mind is really good about forgetting the reasons, right? So,
Mm.
and you know, and sort of avoiding the situation, right? So, but once you write it down, right, that's that first step in manifestation, right? It's like you've physically taken a thought from your head that nobody else can see, and you've put it physically on a piece of paper that, or you know, typed it into your computer or whatever it is, however you journal, however you keep track of those things, right? You've physically manifested it. So it's like it's there now. It's when you go back to look at it, it's not going to change, right? So it's there. It doesn't mean it's carved in stone either. You can adjust over time, but you want to have a starting goal. You know, what is it about this that really, really is driving you? This, you know, making you, you know, anticipatory and excited and all of those things, right? Or what's, you know, we'll get into, you know, what's causing you fearfulness to, maybe you've tried this before and it hasn't worked, you know. So, you know, there's ways of sussing all that out, but you've got to write it down, right? You need to know what you want. And then also, second part of that is why. Why do you want that? What are your motivations? You know, what are your deep goals? You know, nobody's going to see this except you, right? So it's not like you're going to have to broadcast it or print it online or whatever, post it to your Facebook page. I wouldn't do that, right? So you really want to know for yourself, you know, like just keep asking yourself those questions, you know, like why? Well, just because I think it's cool. Okay, well, that's nice on the surface, but why is it cool? You know, you want to really get in there, see if you can get to an ultimate why, right? Get to a point that's like, okay, this is getting a little deeper than just that cursory surface. You know, this is cool. Well, you know, why do you need to be cool? You know, it's like, you know, there's that significance, right? Where we're individual, and one of those 6 common needs of human beings, right? We need to be somewhat individual, and everybody to a different state, right? Everybody to a different, let's say, percentage of that. But, you know, you want to know that, you know, that you matter, that what you do is unique, and you know, that maybe you feel like you need to, you know, push yourself and be the best at something, or whatever, you know, but you want to come to the understanding of yourself in that way, right? I mean, a lot of the work that we do with other programs is, you know, understanding our own minds, right? That's a huge thing, right? Know yourself, right? Because again, when things get dicey, the only reference point you're going to have is yourself. So the more you understand yourself and all the little intricacies, you know, the better you're going to be prepared for things like that. It's just
Right.
going to make everything better if you do it.
So we're sitting down, writing out what we want, starting to dig a little bit into why we want it, and hopefully a lot of it into why we want it. And every time we get those answers back, those spontaneous responses that seem to arise, almost like automatic writing, it's like, oh, there's another breadcrumb right on the trail, and well,
Right.
why do I want that, and well, why do I want that, and yeah, how do we know like when we've dug deep enough with the why?
No, I think there's a couple ways. One is that you may just have a sense of, and this can be a tricky one, right? Because your conscious mind is playing into it, right? Because it knows you're preparing to answer the call, right?
What do you mean by that?
It's like you know, it's like that first stage on the heroic journey, right? Because there is only one story, and that's the heroic journey, right? And it's like, look at that template and look at any book, any motion picture of any genre. You know, it's the heroic journey, right? You look at these people, you know, people who are what we would consider successful in certain territories, and you know, the reason that you know, they get biographies written about them, or you know, even autobiographies, right, is that they're showing people that, you know, I started out here and I had this goal for my life, or maybe just preliminary goal, and then I reached that, and then I projected into something else, and and they shows the course of their life, and that people can rise from almost any situation, right, and produce something miraculous out of their life, even if it's just for themselves and their family and the people around them, their community. They don't have to be world leaders, right? But they could be. And so, again, I mean, I think that having people, uh, you know, look at the people around them, and see who's, leading by example, who's living, a wonderful life. That's something that's really engaging and popular for us. Otherwise, we wouldn't go read these books. We wouldn't buy them. We wouldn't go to the movies. It would be just, sort of, some kind of weird entertainment. I don't know. I feel like the reason that we go and do that is like we want to see all the little ins and outs of this heroic journey. We want to, whether we want to or not, we're all on it, right? It's just that maybe the journey that you're on, maybe that one that's happening right now to you is either stuck at a certain stage, or you're feeling like, you're wandering in the desert, lost, it's like, and not sure which way to go now, in order to progress farther. But this first stage, the what do you want, why do you want it, that's sort of the call, right? That's the call to adventure, right? And it's like, and everybody, a lot of times, if it's, you could have one or two reactions, right? Some people just like jump at any adventure that comes along, like, oh, I haven't done that before, let me try it. And then there's other people that kind of go, I don't know if I want to swim with the sharks. Oh, it's like, I hear it's really cool and I kind of think about it, but it just seems too risky, or base jumping or some other ungodly thing that, just is crazy. Not that if you like that, that's cool, but for most of us, it's hard enough to get us up in a perfectly good airplane, let alone jump out of one. So it's one of those things, right? So different types of personalities, but we all get these calls to adventure, and a lot of times, most of the time, we let them slide by us, right? It's like, oh, it's not my interest, or we'll tell ourselves it's not my interest, start a new business, enter into a new relationship, whatever, right? It's sort of like engage in a new process. It's the unknown again, right? So
why do you think we do that?
I think it's the unknown, and we, it's the counterbalance to certainty, right? Is uncertainty. Now, there's a certain percentage of uncertainty that's really good. We need variety, right? I mean, if you did the same thing and you knew exactly the response, and over and over and over again, you'd get pretty bored. I think of certainty as kind of like, how many times can you, put, and I'm speaking from personal experience now, how many times can you put a 9-piece, puzzle for, a toddler together with them, before you're like, you're wishing you were, like asleep, rather than putting this damn thing together over and over and over, exactly the same again and again and again, right? It'll drive you crazy, right? So even the best situations, and I know people sort of, at first they balk at this, but like even the best scenarios, when if you're in that constantly, right, and it's just the same thing over and there's no variety, you're looking for things to be, uncertain. You're looking for the surprises. You're looking for those things that are, that give you a challenge, right? And we create them if we don't find them naturally, right? So that's the part. We call it surprise. It's like, how many people love surprises? About half the room will raise their hand, maybe a little more than that, right? And then you ask them, it's like, nope, or you tell them, no, it's not true. It's like, you only like surprises when it produces something you want. The other surprises that you get, we call them problems. So it's like everybody's comfortable with a certain amount of uncertainty, right? You have to have it, but you also want to have the confidence that you can maneuver through that, right? So I think that this first one, when you start going into the why and you're discovering what it is that really is driving you toward this, even if it's a little, scary or whatever, you want to try it. You want to pit yourself against it. you know, some of those things, you know, when you're looking at the whys and you're getting deeper and deeper into it and you're uncovering things about yourself that maybe you didn't even know that they were there, right? And just asking the right questions was producing that for you. And so that in and of itself can be, you know, quite the experience, right? You can have an aha moment just doing the why, right? Of that, what do you want? Why do you want it? Right? You can get to that point. And that's usually where I think it's like, you'll have a sense, and not tricking yourself, but you'll have a sense like, I just can't ask any more questions. Like, it feels like I've really come to the bottom of it. And that's more of an analytical thing, right? Where it's like an analytical understanding of like, okay, I feel good. I feel like that's it. That's the bottom. You know, that's where it is. I'm comfortable with this now. And it's like, okay, good. You know, the other one is when you have one of those aha moments where you start to, you know, you hit on one of these, you know, cinch pins of, uh, you know, that doesn't just cover the lucid dreaming, what do you want, but it covers many aspects of your life, why you've done certain things, right? And that's sort of one of those aha, like, you know, can knock you on your ass kind of things, right? Where it's like, oh my God, I've been trying to please people my whole life. You know, it's like I've always looked for somebody else's, you know, consent for this, or you know, confirmation of what I'm doing is okay or good, or, you know, it's those kind of deep level conditions that you find out about when you ask these questions. And if you go deep enough, and when you have that, you'll know that that's it, you're done. There's a ripple effect there. It's not something that would be an endless exercise, you know. So
Mm.
that's how I know when I'm finished with that process. But it can take some time, right?
Right.
So
And so as we cover the first, so yeah, all these videos for the first 2 weeks, you know, the idea is that, you know, we're going to really take time and devote a certain amount of energy to really diving into these
oh
things
yeah,
these first couple weeks. And, you know, I know that you've said that this process, you know, you've spent time in your practice where you've done this for months, right?
right.
So, you know,
It's not necessary to do it that long, you know, but and part of that might have just been the conditions that I was in at the time too,
right.
or that the thing that I was trying to achieve was so important to me that it really uncovered a bunch of deep layers that I hadn't gotten to before. Because you can do this process I would encourage you to do this process for everything you undertake, because it'll really enlighten you ahead of time. It'll really get you motivated, and as to, you know, where, you know, where is your motivation coming from? You know, is it being imposed on you? Are you choosing it? Is it another one of those underlying beliefs that's just running 24/7 and you're just sort of blindly following it? You know, or, you know, in your understanding of it and bringing it to light, um, you know, it can really give you a lot of energy, right? It really can give you a boost, a huge boost. And so, you know, it may change what you want, actually, you know, may feed back into that. So, or it may just give you, you know, the ultimate confidence to move forward. And maybe you don't need anything else if you do this really well. I mean, it could be the thing that drives you over the top. So it's such an important exercise. You know, it can't overestimate it. You know, it's really there. And,
Mm.
you know, but everybody, no matter how cursory you do it, it will provide you with some information.
Right. And again, that step-by-step process is simply writing out what you want, then writing out why you want it, and doing almost that automatic writing. And then every time
Yeah.
that you get a response, an internal response, writing that out and then digging deeper with why that? Well, why that? And why that? And
And my suggestion for that would be, you know, start off with a very relaxed attitude. I mean, I know it's going to, you know, some people will go to this with trepidation. Other people will really want to burrow in there, and that's
yeah,
okay. But if you're just sort of like neutral, I find that that's a nice way to ease into it, right? It's like, you know, you just start writing stuff down. You know, what's the first thing that comes to your head? Why do you want this? It's, you know, like I said, it could be something as, you know, cursory as it, because it would just be cool to experience it.
sure.
Well, awesome, right? And it's like, well, why would it be cool to experience it? And then you're going to write more out, right? And so the process sort of takes on a life of its own. and keeps you moving, right? I mean, you'll know when it's time to stop it, right? You'll have a sense when it's like, wow, you know, I feel really good about this. I really understand why I'm trying to do this, at least at this level, at this time, right? So I think that that's a good exercise to start off with, like anything, because it really defines your goals, right? And really starts to give you some internal insight.
Mm. Now
I mean,
is
you're going inside, right? So it's like the thing that you're trying to dredge up now, the whys, right? You're going to be immersed in that universe, in that environment. Your subconscious is where all that stuff lives, right? And you're trying to get it out. So, you know, it's another one of those, almost in a way like a preliminary warm up, right? If you can sort of let those things come out and sort of follow that lead and the questioning and all of that, when you enter into your subconscious, it's going to be that much easier for you because you'll have a little experience there, right? So, and that's a big deal. You know, it can really make the difference. So,
mm. Is part of the point of the exercise to be able to have like your why succinctly written out into like a sentence or something like that as something that you keep, or is it more just the actual exercise itself and the changes and awareness that it produces within you as being the ultimate end result of the exercise?
well, again, you know, writing it down is important because it solidifies it, right?
Right.
So,
I mean, we're going to write the whole thing, but I just mean,
right.
is the purpose to have
Does it
this
have to be
succinct
in a
statement?
proper form? No, no,
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be. You know, it's, you know, I would write as much as I'm comfortable with, you know,
Mhm.
in the form that you're most comfortable with, right? So if it's single words or, you know, what's the concept behind it? If you need to spell it out, and, you know, again, you could have more questions, you know, as the answers are produced, right? So you're just going to keep following that trail. It's much like recovering dreams, right? It's like you follow the trail until you can start recovering your dreams all the time, making sure that you remember the you know, not just the big aspects of it, but sometimes the details too, right? Depending on what it is. So
Right.
uh, that's important. So this is another one of those tasks that sort of preps you for that.
Right. And when you're done with it, do we need to do anything special with it? Like, I mean, do we like,
I mean, I would keep it available, look at it on a regular basis, you know.
mm,
It's, you know, maybe some other question will come up and you'll write it down, you know, maybe you'll augment it somehow, and that's fine. You know, it's like I keep those things available. Again, one of the ideas of how to make this um, such a strong practice and you know, be able to really get in there and go with it is that you're immersing yourself in everything at this point. We all know that immersion into anything, a new language, you know, what's the easiest way to do it? To, you know, go to school, learn how to speak Spanish, to, do like Rosetta Stone or one of those programs to learn it, you know, or, you know, marry somebody who's Spanish, you know, you know, or go to a place where that's all they speak, right? And now it's critical that you learn to communicate and the little nuances for that area, right? So all of those things, you know, that's really truly the most productive way of learning, right? So it's just not all of us can go to a different country and immerse ourselves to learn Spanish or whatever it would be, right? So but we try to use that principle. And so one of my things with this, which is for you too, is, you know, everything you do from this point on, whatever practices you hold, you know, meditation practices, exercise practices, whatever, everything that you do, everything you read, watch, total immersion into the world of dreaming or lucid dreaming or something of that ilk, right? So something that you can sort of go, oh, okay, you know, this is like this, or this would be that aspect, or, you know, something that spurs your imagination or gets you excited about that. And, you know, oh, you know, that's really cool. I really want to experience that, you know, speaking to animals, whatever, you know, like there's everything again that you could possibly imagine. So, you know, you want to sort of get in there and really immerse yourself in that and keep yourself not just pumped up, but, you know, keep your energy high in that territory and don't let it be diverted by crap that you don't really need to, you know. And again, if you have other practices, I would just, you know, continue to do them, but make them pointed all toward this single goal. So if you have a regular meditation practice, is there some way that that can be tweaked to facilitate, you know, your goal of being able to enter lucid dream, you know, in the beginning, once a week, right? So consistently. And you know, there are ways to do that. It's just a matter of, you know, thinking, oh, okay, you know, I'm not going to divert my energy to all these other projects. I'm going to focus everything on this, at least at this time, right? And so once you achieve that first marker, nobody's going to have to, you know, drive you with a whip to keep going. It's going to be like, I'm going to be pulling back on the reins and going, whoa, boy, whoa, let's just, you know, let's get this stage done now, you know. So it's like, usually that's what it, you know, that's what it entails. So, but in the beginning, you know, that immersion is, can you do it without it? Yes. But, you know, you will do it much quicker with that immersion technique, you know, where everything is sort of pointed in that direction. So that being said, you know, you know, if you have books on it, if you're interested in it, you know, you have books on it, or even novels that have, you know, excerpts of that in it, you know, you want to read through those. You know, it's like movies like Inception, and I don't know, uh, you know, all kinds of stuff that's in that genre, you know, that it's like, okay, you know, there's aspects of that you want to really sort of immerse yourself in that and imagine yourself being in it.
Hmm.
You know, that's you. Pick a character and play it out. You know, it's like, that's you. And, you know, these are some of the experiences that I could have, or even better than this. So, you know, you really want to, you know, engage it on that level, right? It's like, um, what's that practice? The, uh, not Florilegia, but Lectio Divina, right? Where you're, you know, you're doing those stages, right? It's literal, and then you're moving into, you know, sort of like the metaphorical, right? So symbolism and all of that, the morals, and you know, what to do, what not to do, all of those things, and engaging more and more sensory into it, right? So that's really important. And so this is sort of like pulling all of those practices together, and directing all of that effort, all of your efforts toward this end goal of, you know, being able to achieve lucid dream. And then, you know, and then everything will be going toward, you know, moving it toward that next stage. So yeah, so I think that's important, you know.
Yeah, that's
So
going to be one of those tough things, you know,
it is a tough thing.
saying, you know, okay, when I'm going to engage in entertainment, like if I'm going to put on a movie, or, you know, or when I'm going to do some reading, making it connected to the idea of lucid dreaming, and making a conscious effort to make it about that is like, I mean, that's a conscious sacrifice, and it also takes a certain amount of willpower to be like, I'm really going to do this. This is really important to me. I mean, right? And
Yeah.
everybody can make up their own decisions. I mean, this is part of the whole this program. Like I said, it's like we're going to, you know, this is like boot camp
Yeah.
for me, right? And so if you really want to do it and participate in that boot, if you have the inclination to engage things in that way, which I do, which is just like, if this is something that I really want and I'm really committed to doing it, um, and I have clear instruction to follow, then I'm gonna really go for it. And you know, I've said that it's important, so now I'm gonna show myself that it's important by like following through with these things. Um, and you know, it makes sense, like writing out what do you want and why do you want it, because when it comes time to put on Inception instead of something else, it's like you're gonna have to have a real reason to do that, you know. It's like,
Well, you know, and the other thing, I mean, it doesn't have to be limited, because how many movies are there about lucid dreaming, right? And
right.
so, but at the same time, it's like you can take, like, let's say, I'm not saying, you know, become a hermit, and don't engage in your relationships and, you know, work and all of these things, right? But the idea is that you can utilize them in a way. You know, you can utilize, like, let's say, you know, your wife, your husband, whatever, is going to, you know, they want to sit down and watch a movie with you, and you're going to watch some movie that they want to watch, and that's fine, you know. But then take a piece of that back when you go back to do your, you know, just give yourself the idea, like, ooh, if I was this character in my dream, in the movie, you know, in my lucid dream, how would I change this? What would I do? You know, how would I, where would be the points where I would go like, oh, that's a, you know, if it's a dream induced lucid dream, right? It's like, oh, that's the point where I would wake up. There's my dream sign. There's my this, there's my that, you know? So it's like, it's immersing in that way. It's constantly sort of running in your mind so that, you know, you can, with that template, everything else that's around you, you can superimpose, you know, with that, and it kind of brings it into focus, right? It's always percentage of your energy, your mental energy, is going toward that idea that you're going to be immersed in lucid dreaming, that you're going to be there. So saying the things like, you know, when if I was in that place, you know, this is how I would change this scenario to make it funny, or to make it whatever and exciting, or, you know, just like, you know, fly away or whatever it is, right? And so, and then when you're doing, you know, sort of relaxed meditation or whatever it is, you're kind of running through those scenarios in your mind. You might use that sort of, you know, clip in a movie where it's like you run it, you're that character, you're doing it, and then at that moment you wake up and, you know, you're lucid, right? And then you, boom, you know, you take off and or change it and make it silly and funny or whatever it is, right? Whatever is good for you. So that's how you do it. I mean, that's how you sort of use your everyday existence to engage and immerse yourself in this, you know, practice. And that will bring it, you know, to a much better place.
So I still get to have a life then.
You still get to have a life, just, you know, a controlled life.
A focused life.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, cool. So, so basically, our assignments, right? If should we choose to accept it, is writing out what we want and why we want it, and starting
Right.
to think about, you know, getting a few books on lucid dreaming, and I'm sure we'll make, you know, some recommendations throughout the program, and
Sure.
and I'll put that like in the notes or throughout. You know, there'll be plenty of opportunities for that throughout the course.
Right.
But just starting to fill our minds with that content and think about ways that we can
Exactly.
hook
Exactly.
into that thought process on a regular
Yep.
basis. Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, we know that the more you put your mind on something, the more that it's going to present itself, right? And, you know, what you think about most of the time is what you become, right? So if I'm thinking at least a little bit about lucid dreaming constantly, or it's always sort of in the background, and it's just a habit, right? I'm conditioning myself to do that, and all of my energetic or spiritual practices are moving in that direction. And so, you know, and several nights a week, my sleeping pattern is, you know, let's say interrupted, or, you know, skewed in a way that will present that opportunity over and over and over again. And I have that anticipatory, you know, that expectation that this is going to happen. Then, you know, your subconscious is going to start saying, wow, this is really important to him. You know, we got to make this happen. We got to, you know, rally the forces and offer it, you know, as an experience on a regular basis, and see what he does with that. You know, where's it going to go from there? Maybe it'll just be a flight of fancy, and then it'll be done. You know, and then, you know, but for, you know, maybe this is a different course, and so time will tell, right? With your the decisions that you make and the actions that you take, you know, toward that end goal. You know, it's all about that. Yeah, there's some sacrifice. There's sacrifice with everything we want to achieve, right? If it's of any kind of importance, I mean, there's sacrifice involved. But, you know, it's not like, oh, you've got to, you know, I don't know, fly halfway across the world to, you know, the Amazon and take some, you know, psychoactive potion that tastes awful, and, you know, and do this for months on end until you can finally make a breakthrough. Or, you know, it's like, I mean, who has that kind of time? Who has that kind of ability? Who has that kind of finance? You know, it's like, no, you have everything you need in front of you. and within you, most importantly. It's just, it just needs to be directed in the right way. And then, you're going to achieve it, and that's it. And so, but there is, obviously, I mean, it's like those few nights a week or whatever in the beginning, you're not gonna be able to sleep all the way through the night. You're gonna have to, get up, interrupt it, go and make an attempt, and there are all different kinds of ways to do that, right? So, you'll switch it up until you finally either get results, and then if you get results with that method and you keep using that method and it keeps producing results, great. You don't have to keep embellishing with other things, right? You use what works. That's a key principle, right? So,
Right.
but it does take some effort. It's not instantaneous, and it's not without, any kind of action on your part. That's just too haphazard, too random, right? So,
Right.
yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm ready.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we'll just wrap up this segment so we can chunk it down, and then and yeah. And if anybody has questions on that, obviously we can take them on the live call, or you can raise them in the in the community section of the website.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And
Great.
yeah. So
Get to it.
all right, will do. Enjoy.
See ya.